Greetings, welcome to OG Foundation, capital of the sovereign state of Elodium. I am your host, Sovereign Non of Elodium, and this is the preseason for season 12 here at OG Foundation. I think it's 12. If it's 13, then I'm off by a year. But anyways, behind me, you can see we're in the Molly Stark Tower. So there's a chimney that goes through from underneath. There's the wood stove under there. And the first task that I'm getting to now is mounting these windows here, into these round holes. So it's a bit tricky because the holes are cement and there's not really a way to mount them. So I'm going to devise a way with wood to frame them in place and then figure it out from there. So first goal is to get the windows in using wood. Alright, so I got the first window. I drilled a couple extra holes, and then I've got 3-inch screws sticking out from the inside, which are kind of pushing up against the cement part, and then the wood is keeping it from falling in towards me. And I got it level. It's not exactly center in the hole, but that shouldn't really matter. So I think I'm gonna spray foam it or something, but I don't think the spray foam is gonna be strong enough to hold it because the gap is so big. And eventually what I'll have to do is mortar it and somehow mortar those screws. You can see how the screw is just kind of like that. And so this is the trickiest part, is just figuring out how to mount it. But I got one window up there, and it's kind of level up and down. So I think the placement is good, and I'm just not sure if I want to try to foam in between the screws or just move on to the next window and use more wood to kind of prop it up. But seems like progress. So by the end of the day, I got 2 windows mounted. They are level vertically as far as the tilt axis, not necessarily the face of the windows because they're in line with the tower, and they're level top to top with each other. I was kind of on the fence about adding spray foam, but decided it is the best choice for now because it's going to be probably 2 weeks before I can do the mortar step, and just for added surety, I don't think this wood's going to go anywhere, but the foam will just hold it better, and eventually I'll probably end up cutting out the foam and replacing it with mortar and lath. And I made sure not to foam around the screws because I'll probably do it in 2 steps. So once I get a mortar window, I'll mortar around the screws first, and then once that is all cured later, I'll probably cut the foam out and then replace that with mortar or something along those lines. But good start for the windows in here. 2 out of 5 are in, and that's it for today. So afternoon on Monday, and I've got 2 more of these windows in with the wood, and I'm gonna get this one after a little break. There's a little funky thing, well, I'll show you it later. But anyways, and then once I get the 3rd one in, I will do the next can of foam. It seems like that foam worked really well to really keep those in nice and tight, even though I'm not gonna take the wood out. But there's a little bit of play with it with the wood there, where you can adjust the window to get it level and kind of move it a little bit. So having the foam make sure it stays in place so that when it's time for mortar, it's going to be nice and solid, and there's going to be no stress upon the mortar where it connects with the screws. And I'll add little band-aid patches of lath in there. So it's going pretty good. So it's March 10th. It feels like the 3rd day of spring, though we're still in winter, and these windows all got foamed yesterday, and now I'm working on closing up the gaps with recycled insulation panels. So started up there. Now I'm getting onto this gap here, and basically I rough in panels, and I'm even using the styrofoam that the windows were shipped in. Any kind of this styrofoam material that's recycled, I'll use, and just doing my best to fill in the gaps. I got some mortar mix today to be able to mortar the exposed holes where the screws are, where I'll add lath to kind of help to bond everything, and then get that all mortared in before I cut some of the foam out. But it's probably going to be a couple weeks before I could do that because there's some cold temperatures coming. So just piecing together insulation and getting this getting this as kind of roughly enclosed as possible, because once it's all sort of enclosed, then fire can actually heat it in here. Probably even with those little holes around the windows, I bet a fire will do pretty good in here for heating it up to maybe be able to do some work even when it's cold. So yeah, I'll give you another shot after I block around this window here and get some foam in there. So end of the day, and got the side blocked in and the top blocked in, and I'm using the thinner pieces of that shipping styrofoam stuff to pack in around the top. And I've got one can of foam into it, and I'm about to put the second can of spray foam, and then all done for today. I got most of this upper area sealed. There's a good bit left on the lower area that I'll do in the next available day to then enclose this whole first floor or second floor type situation, and then I'll move on to the loft later when there's decent weather. It is Sunday, March 8th. We're still in the last 2 weeks of winter, but we got a nice warm spell, and a lot of the snow is melting, getting into the 50s. And what I'm going to do today is tree pruning. So I got to start on this apple tree. Unfortunately, I lost this apple tree last year, because of stupid choices. After the goats rubbed their horns up on him, I tried to graft it to itself or something really dumb. I should have done more research before I acted. But I don't know if any of that will survive, but it has a sucker over here, and maybe that will survive if I protect them from the goats. But anyways, we'll see about that. This one I just started to prune, and I'm also not really any kind of expert at pruning, but I've done it a couple years, and just watched some more videos, so I'm trying to do somewhat of an open center on this one, and there's still a good bit to cut away on that back kind of branch, but I've already cut off a good bit on this one. And then I've got this apple tree here, which is really busy, and then this is another apple tree which had died. And then I've got these plum trees, which on this side, they're suckers from that one, which I was looking up to see if they'll even produce fruit. I don't know for sure, but since they've grown underground 8 feet for that one, and it's got a nice healthy trunk over there, we're gonna prune these plum trees. Hopefully they survive. I've got some solution to put over the exposed cuts and stuff, which I guess is essential for the stone fruit, like the plums and the peaches over there. And so you can see this one's got kind of a open center and is really sprawling. Some of them are kind of too close in this planting arrangement here. This is a peach, and there's a peach, and there's a peach, and then all these are plums, and there's the two different kind of pollinating pears. That's a pear, and then these are pears for making fruit. So I'm just gonna, maybe I'll do some before and after, but first I'm gonna, of individual trees. So first I'm gonna finish up on this tree here on the left side, and then I will get to this really busy tree here. Let's see what happens. So this one is now all trimmed. Like I said, it's not perfect, and I'm not an expert, but the idea is to have support for the fruit and not too much competition for the branches, so there's not too much energy going to the leaves. And then also just kind of shaping it so that it grows at a height that's convenient and fits the space and stuff. So on to this messy plum tree area. And the boys are getting the thicker branches to eat the bark off of. So another heavy pruning on these plum kind of suckers. And then cleaned up this one a good bit. Left maybe a little bit too much of an opening right here in the middle, but they'll end up filling it. And yeah, onto the other two plums here. This one's been my most productive plum. And it's got some vines on it, and it's got this wall to contend with now. And then this one has been my most out of control plum, and just last year or the year before it made its first plums, because I got this one to pollinate it. But they are a little bit tight in here, so I gotta clean it up a little bit. Probably gonna have to cut that peach, one of the 3 branches, completely, the one closest to me. And yeah, on to the next. And here's what it looks like after I trimmed all of them. Did quite a bit on this one, pretty heavy on that one, and I did not so much on this peach tree because it kind of grows up there, so from standing up there you can harvest them up higher. And did a good bit on that one over there. So basically the idea is it'll make a canopy about 8 to 10 feet tall, where you can walk underneath of it and then just reach up and grab the fruit. That's kind of the idea. So, all done with tree trimming for today. Just gotta deal with all these branches now. The last fruit tree of the day that I trimmed, or actually two, are these two pear trees, which are in the two big tires. This one has had some damage from cows in the past, and it's also competing with the blueberry bush and blackberry bush in that thing. So it's been a bit stunted, also because this one's on the south side, so it hasn't got as much light. So I left that one's main leader branch going vertical to help that one kind of recover from some vigor this year, hopefully. And then this one, I pruned it pretty heavily, and most of the longer ones, there's some really tall ones there, but they're all kind of like bending over in that direction, so that this whole side here, that it won't compete with the light with that one. Then there's this willow tree, which has grown like crazy over the last 7 years in this tire, which kind of shades both of them, which isn't really ideal. But I don't know if I'm gonna trim this more this year. If I do, I'll probably take a chainsaw to some of these bigger ones or something, but I'm gonna leave it for now and just put some of this pruning solution stuff, sealant, on the bigger branches that I cut. It's Wednesday in the first week of spring, and I did the first supply trip. So this year I'm gonna use this cattle fence panels instead of remesh as much as I can. So it's a lot thicker than remesh, and it's galvanized, and it's significantly cheaper. For the coverage, it's probably about half the price, yet way thicker gauge wire. And then got some stuff for some extra goat fences as well. So first resupply complete. It is March 20th, 10 minutes until the spring equinox. Therefore, I'm going to celebrate by splitting this log over here. It's a bit messy out here with the insulation panels about still. But what I've done so far on the gate tower unit here, the Molly Stark tower, the gate tower is over there. I just had it on my mind because the current resident is moving out. They just notified me, and so I just posted that for rental. But my goal is to have the Molly Stark Tower livable by May 1st. So what I've started by doing is sealing off the whole downstairs part with foam and spray foam, and I'll probably end up covering up these panels with some of these scrap pieces of green plywood or whatever. And my goal for celebrating the equinox is to light this fire up for the first time. So I haven't actually used this wood stove yet, but you can see its chimney goes all the way up to the top area. This area in here, I'm gonna build a little kitchenette dining type space in here. So I've got these windows foamed in. They're still kind of buttressed by wood, but I'll end up taking that down. And for the time being, I'm gonna stick pieces of insulation in these holes around the sides of them so that I can heat it in here and hopefully get some work done in here while it's still cold temperatures, still getting below freezing. And so up here, you can see the rest of the exposed chimney, nice long exposed chimney. This is what I'm going to use to kind of just pack in some of the last areas. But I sealed up over there and sealed up down here, so you can kind of get a whole view of the Molly Stark Tower here. And one of the first projects after I get this livable, basically, so this door up here opens. Though I'm gonna probably build some sort of wooden platform to make it easy to get up here. But basically, it's got this tiny little balcony type thing. And if you see that concrete pillar down there, I'm gonna make it so that I can walk out here straight. I'm gonna build a walkway into the abyss so that I can walk straight to above that pillar, which will entail a big arch. So if we lean over here, you can see those two pieces of rebar sticking out. So those two pieces of rebar are going to end up arching over there, one big arch over the road. And then there'll be a flat plane on the top, which should just be flat from right where I'm walking to be able to walk all the way out to there. And then I'll build a crenellation wall along the side of it, so it'll be like a battlement type look. So you have a wall on the one side, and you'll be able to walk over to there, and we'll see what happens from there, if I can build a staircase or extend the wall or what exactly I'll do. But that's basically the first two plans I had. Well, my plans just keep changing rapidly. There was a person who was going to work with me this year, but that didn't work out. There's a spring hinge on this to keep it from blowing in the wind too wildly. So yeah, I'm probably going to build some sort of little platform here. I might build a little platform over there too to kind of extend that thing that could be for a bed, so that instead of just a single bed, it could build like or fit a full bed. So I might kind of do some sort of woodwork, kind of stairs and little walkway, so that you can kind of walk around this at that angle while still using the space underneath to be able to use that area better up there, and then have access to that door without having to climb on this like I just did. And there's just a few holes over here where I'm going to run like the plumbing in for this shower that I've got to do a good bit of work on. And then the other thing I got to do is in this secret tunnel here. I finished insulating that, getting that tight. But you can see this tunnel secretly opens up to the outside here. And now we're up top and we see Molly the Dragon. So I'm going to have to build some kind of like doorway type situation there, like maybe with insulation panels or insulation or something, probably right past where that drain is, so the drain's on the outside here, and then there'll be some kind of little back door, escape door thing over here. So those are the main plans for basically this video will be the preseason video, and right now I'm going to go split the wood and then start the fire and see if I can burn the place down. Well, not really. Most of it's not even flammable. But as long as I know the chimney's not going to melt because I did a good fire test on it, and as long as it doesn't get disconnected from the wood stove, there's very, very little risk from all of it. But I'm going to go split some wood and start a fire, and I'll give you an update. It has begun. So far the draw seems good, and I'm not seeing any smoke escaping. And then here's the top. On the top of the Molly Stark Tower here. The chimney is got some kind of insulation right up against the ferro cement. The epoxy up here, I give it like a C as far as how it held up to the winter. There's some cracking there and a bit of hit there. I'll have to scrape it and reapply, or maybe apply a different material. Anyways, it's good learning lessons for the epoxy. But yeah, smoke coming out the chimney. And the chimney in here is already warm to the touch. So I'll basically just, if I had a thermometer it would work better, but I'll just see how long it takes to get nice and warm in here. So end of the day of this first day of spring, and the fireplace performed wonderfully, perfectly. The exposed chimney works incredibly well. It's nice and warm in here, and I took off all of the supports on the windows, so the windows are just foamed into place, and then stuffed the holes with the loose insulation until I'll be able to mortar it later on. And then up here, it didn't get super warm because this the tunnel's not fully sealed, but still I was chilling up there, smoking a little tobacco and just thinking how cool of a place it would be to sleep up there. And from sitting up there in that window, you can just see the whole west side and all of the horse pastures and stuff. So I used like a piece of foam that's used for shipping solar panels, like a flimsy little piece of foam that's like a fabric, and then use it as a stencil in here to kind of trace the shape for this first piece of insulation. And so I've got one piece of insulation on the bottom. There's still some room on the bottom so that if water gets in here, it can still make its way to that drain. And got this one insulation panel in here, nice and foamed. Use a full can of foam, and then kind of got this edge as well. And I'll try to get tomorrow, I suppose, I'll get this next piece in to fill as much of the rest as possible. And I'll use that the same kind of stencil technique. And then once I've got this whole thing filled with insulation panels, then I'll cut a like a door out of it, so that there's a little, it won't be the most convenient thing, but be a little door to be able to close and be insulated and get in and out, and then like locked from the inside, so it's nice and secure. And then there's enough space down here. This is just leaning against that to keep it in place, but there's enough space in here to be kind of like, if it's all dry, it doesn't get any of the leaks from the top, the what's the thing on a whale where it blows out the air, like the spout or something? That's like the dragon spout. So water used to come right in here and then work its way down here to the drain. But I put an insulation plug in there so the water stays on the outside and works its way to the drain. But it might leak a little, I don't know, but I haven't seen any leaks yet. But so if this is nice and sealed, you can put like windows in here and it'll be a cool little like nook. A little nook for like reading, and then at some point a window could go in here on this side. So it's got some natural light and stuff, and then there's also some little hooks up in the top here for to be able to hang like lighting, like a LED light or something. So anyways, because this is still open, I can't really get too warm up in here, but that's great progress for today. And it's nice to hang out in here and have this fire going right up here. Right now it's like warm to the touch, not burned to the touch, but because I did a fire test on this, I'd be confident in it, even if there's a chimney fire going all the way up to burn out the creosote, because this chimney is very heat tolerant, and I wouldn't be worried about that. But anyways, the heating element is tested. It's working great, and I've just got that one little area that I got to close off. And then other than that, the main two areas are around this window that opens. It's got a gap around that side. I got to figure out how to get that a bit tighter, mostly on the sides of that window. But if I didn't have that window to open, it would be way easier. I could just foam it up, but it's cool that it opens. And then around this door, there's some pretty big gaps. So on the next work day, I'll probably put some like 2x4s and maybe a little bit of foam stuff to seal that door. So that's what's left for being able to heat it in here. But it's like, even regardless right now, it's nice and comfortable as far as working, even though it's snowing outside and chilly. It's a comfortable work environment. But that's all for today. It's March 27th, and it is darn cold. But I'm cutting the other half of the insulation plug for that tunnel so that I can get that sealed off in there, so that when the fire's going, it'll be warm enough in there to do some work. And you can see this piece of insulation over here. See, I use like this flexible thing that was like from a solar panel shipping, but I use that for my stencil, and then draw the shape onto here, and I can just cut the curved shape all the way through here, and hopefully that'll fit pretty good. So, end of the day, Friday, and got this little niche all foamed in. So, it's hard to really see in here, but it's a really cool little area. It'd be really easy to put pillows in here, and maybe a little window right here, and eventually a door on this side. But it's a cool little cubby hole. With good lighting, it could be good for reading or hiding, depending on what I put in front of it. But tunnel, secret tunnel. You gotta have secret tunnels in castles. Okay, so the other idea I had today is how to do the inside of here. So instead of just step up here, instead of just having that little bed over there, I am going to frame like a full 8 foot kind of bed frame on top going this way, basically with this being one side and then the rest going that way, so that you could have a full, or maybe probably even a queen size bed in that bed space up there. And then I'll have to put some steps in over there so that you'd walk around here to get up to bed, and there'll be some steps there. And then I'm going to have to put in a little wall right here, which will be privacy for the shower, and also a support wall for this little platform that'll come off kind of at an angle, kind of like from the couch to that corner point right there, roughly. And that'll that'll probably be a full wall, so it might have like windows in it or something. And then I'm going to build like a box here, so, and then like steps over here to get up. And then the box, I'm thinking, will be like a closet type thing underneath, but it'll also provide like a platform, so you got more room to stand right here. So it'll go like stairs, which have storage in them, to a box closet thing, so that you can open the door and have some place to stand without having to be really acrobatic. And then the door can open all the way, and then you can walk around and then step up. And that'll make lots of use of these super high, like 12-foot ceilings in here. So that's the plan. And then the other thing I did today was got a door framed in this whole doorway to the balcony, and got a good idea of what this is going to look like. So there's going to end up being a wall, an arch from up here to down there, and then a wall along that line, and then connecting to that rock wall over there. And then for at least a good part of it, I don't know how much of it, but a good part of it, there should be a rampart at this height to be able to walk that way. It's gonna be great. It just all came together, just telling you right now. So what I did out here is I framed this enclosement with 2x4s. So now when the door closes, it's tight all the way around. And so now it's not gusty in here. And the heating system is working so well. One thing is, I don't want to let that slam even though it has a hinge on it, because I'll have to protect that somehow then. But anyways, you can see kind of all around the door that everywhere where there was gaps, there's not really gaps now. So that holds, gets rid of the gustiness up here. So with that sealed and this door sealed, the only thing left up here as far as openings is the hole around this window. And I got an idea that if I can do like a double plastic bag on the window, because this triple window bay swings out, which is why it's counter-levered by this hanging thing, steel weight, so that that'll prevent the window from banging out basically, and it works really well. But I haven't used it since last year. Hopefully it still works well. Should I test it right now? Why not? I think it will work. It's too tight. I have to use the sledgehammer to get it loose, because I jammed it in there real tight for the winter. Okay, so that's it for today. The heat's working really well. Got the two biggest holes sealed in here, and I got basically a plan for the last holes on that window, and then the upstairs is all finished for gustiness, so that it's nice and sealed, staying really warm up in here. The heat just rising off the stove and coming up around this exposed chimney, which is about probably like 22 feet of exposed chimney, or at least 20 feet, all the way down to the wood stove on the very bottom. And technically, if you count the wood floor as one, and the wood stove as the first floor, and then the wooden platform is the second floor, and then this is the third floor, I'm gonna add basically a loft, so it'll be like a fourth floor of the tower, making use of as much of the space as possible. But that's all for today. I might get to this, but that's all for this update. So here's the wood stove and where the chimney starts. This is like the first floor. Then you come up here to this platform, the second floor, and the chimney comes through the floor here with plenty of room around the wood, and then goes all the way up to the top through a narrower one in that ferro cement floor, which was the toughest thing I probably did last year, was figuring out how to do a basically flat ferro cement floor up there, because you have to do it all with tension, and there's no form, so I'm free-forming with metal as I go, and then you gotta like build with something in tension that's flat. It's very challenging, though. You can see how the weight is borne by this arch, and the arch is widest at the bottom, and then that's what's bearing the floor, and then it's all flat, and then it's connected into all the walls with rebar, so the weight of the floor should pull the walls together, if that makes sense. But obviously it's not moving, it's nice and solid, but that's what keeps it solid, is the floor, basically. And the floor is tied into the inner side of the arch, which the arch is otherwise flat, but it's the walls of the arch that have strength. And then the outer wall is what bears the ferro cement dome, which ultimately is probably a similar weight than the floor, because the floor is kind of thick. But anyways, yeah, so the last thing to do to make this like airtight in here, or roughly airtight so it's pretty well insulated, is to get around this door. And this door doesn't have anything on the ground, so I'm not sure exactly how I'll do that. But it might end up being with cinder blocks. I did order a bunch of cinder blocks. And then I got to remount the door as well to get it flush, so I can do like a 2x4 on this side. But that's all for now. So it is the morning of Monday, March 30th, And this is where this is at the start of the day. My intent is to use triangles to stabilize all of this, and then try to make a bed frame up top with the minimal height, because I don't want to put just like a regular framed 2x thing up there. I want it to be as thin as possible while still having enough structural integrity to be a bed. So I'll probably run the 2x4s this way as opposed to standing up, and see how it all goes. So lunchtime, and I've made some progress on this. I figured out how to do the one face, so it's all like at an angle, but that'll be the main load bearing thing. And then I did some shelves over here to make use of this space, and then reinforced it. And when I finish lunch, I think I will get to laying out the bed kind of slats up there before getting into reinforcing this like a box here to reinforce this side. So end of the day Monday, and I got the platform up here all done. Just zoom out. And I might just do one support underneath in the middle, because basically each of these is only supported on one end and the other end. And since they're flat, like if you put a lot of weight on one 2x4 in the middle, it'll go down compared to the other. So if I can put one support underneath, it'll keep them all together to help disperse the load when it's in the middle. And tomorrow I can get into the stairs and stuff. So it's the afternoon of the final day of May. I spent the morning on road maintenance, and now I'm seeing about these stairs. I think I have to make another triangle going from there up to like the halfway point there or something, and then kind of frame steps on those. We'll see how it goes. So end of the day Tuesday, and the stairs are complete. It's basically just a minimalist design, reinforced off of the ferro cement that's already there. And then there's enough room for a queen, or yeah, I think a queen size bed up here. And now I gotta build I'm done for today, but the next task is gonna be stairs there, leading up to a platform here. And I think I only have like 6 2x4s left, so I might not have enough to finish, but I'm gonna do as much as I can in the next day. So it is the end of the day Wednesday, and I built stairs over here to connect to stairs over there. So here's how you get on it. You don't have to use the left stair, you can go straight from here, but it's a little tight. Basically, you step up to here, and then over to here, and then up to here. It's way better than before. And now with this platform thing here, it's real easy to use the door here. And now I can look out to the next project of the arch to that column. But actually, still a ways away. I gotta finish, the primary is to finish. Oops, I'm supposed to not do that. I'm supposed to not let the spring take it, and I'm supposed to close it like that. So, now that's accessible, and then you just walk right around here to these stairs to get up to the loft. So, we got some wild framing designs with these triangles, basically. So you'll never see another thing framed like this before. It's like some kind of Archimedean contraption, but it works. Similar to how this one is so strange with these triangles and whatnot. So many triangles. And it's just one 2x4 that's holding up that platform. I'm sure that's suggested in the building code. So I'm all done, or I added another shelf here too with this. All of this is scrap cedar that came off of a job site. That was like trim on a house. The end boards cut off of trim on a house for the shelves there. And I reused this board here. This was a 1x12, a long one that was used for foundation forms, so it had like cement on it. I was scraping it off. The 2x4s, the Douglas fir, I bought all of those. But all of the, or I don't know, a bunch of the ones up there are recycled as well for that platform, getting recycled wood. So that finishes most of the stuff up here as far as like framing. Now I'm going through and kind of cleaning up these piles of mortar and whatnot. And tasks to complete include getting lighting in here, getting plumbing for the shower. It needs to have a hot water shower with some kind of door and a mount for the shower handle thing. And then I'll probably just clear out the rest of this. I might do something over there in the corner, and that table might stay, might go, but that's basically everything for the upstairs. And someone's already made a deposit for the Molly Stark Tower to rent it in May. So it's already secured for May 1st for a tenant. And so I've got a good motivation to get this all finished. And I've made really good progress up here. And there's, oh, and I kind of want to put a door in that tunnel thing. So there's a bit left to do up here before I then go downstairs. I need to put a sink and a few more things framed in there. But this is all the lumber I used. I used every last 2x4 piece I could find, which is partially why it ended up so funky in here. And there's a few really small pieces, like that one. But it's all solid with the minimal amount of wood and taking up the minimal amount of space, which is what the triangles help with. It's just a little more complex, but it works well for the structure in here to kind of just like push off points that are strong, like there and there by the wall. And those things are recycled too. So that is it for today. See what we get into in the next day. So it is Thursday, April 2nd, and got the delivery of the main materials for the year. There's 2 full pallets of Portland cement, which ended up on more than 2 pallets, but there's 80 bags of that. And then I got cinder blocks this year for the first time. Got 3 pallets of cinder blocks, which I'll tell you later what I'm going to do with those. Doing a little spring cleaning fire. The 3rd pallet of cinder blocks, you probably can't really see. Oh, maybe you can, is way down there. There's a stone pile down there. So the cinder blocks are right by the stone pile. Well, I'll just tell you right now. The cinder blocks are going to be for like building a little thing for the stone pile. And then there's 2 up here so I can build a thing around the sand pile to protect it, make it a more permanent kind of site. So I don't have to do this whole tarp and all of this ugly stuff to protect the sand and the stone and to keep the detritus out of it and whatnot. So there'll be 2 for the sand and 1 for the stone. And then we got the steel over here, 130 pieces of rebar and some metal lath. And we've already got the cattle panels over there. And one thing that I'm doing in my spring cleaning is, the project I'm really looking forward to is building this arch. So you see the rebar coming off of the structure there and the pillar. So there's going to be an arch going up and over here. And then there will be a flat line above the arch, so you'll be able to walk out from that balcony to the arch, and there'll be a battlement up there, so the wall will go up, be up like 15-20 feet in the air. And over here, this pillar is on bedrock, and Vermont bedrock is like some of the oldest in the world because the Green Mountains are so old. So I've got bedrock here, and all around here I had this whole kind of like brush wall fence, and using broken cattle panels and just whatnot and tires and such. So I'm cleaning this off because I'm going to run the wall along the bedrock here and then connect it to this stone wall, which is also on bedrock. So a lot of the stuff I've built are on like tire foundations, not on bedrock. But it's when I can build on bedrock, it makes everything better and more permanent and more stable and everything. So it's going to be a big project and a big expense to do that whole arch and then get the wall to connect along this whole line of bedrock here and then connect to that rock wall over there. But that'll be one of the first projects of the season, though the very first project is to get the Molly Stark Tower livable. So now I got to get the rebar inside, I got to protect the Portland from the rain and get the lath inside. And one other thing, so this is like an old mattress, so one of the things that's important to me is to be able to recycle everything. And so one of the things I'm going to do sometime this year is I'm going to get a mini forge so that I can recycle something like this. So I can like cut up the pieces and stick it in the forge and melt it down to steel. That'll be cool. I found out you can actually buy little mini forges for like not very much money, like 250 bucks. You can buy a little forge. And that'll be an addition to the capabilities here. At some point, maybe I'll be able to forge that steel into something. Or maybe the forge, there's two different words. One of them is a forge, the other one is like where you melt the things. So I'm actually just getting the thing where you melt the things. One day maybe I can make my own rebar. Maybe I make a form for rebar and then I can melt down scrap steel and make rebar. Yeah, maybe about 5 years I'll be making my own rebar. And I'll add some nickel to it because I got lots of nickel. But you gotta wait for the nickels to get canceled before I do that. But I would never melt down Jeffersons. Jeffersons will never get melted down while I'm around because they're just valuable as they are. Anyways, super excited about the material delivery, and I'm just gonna secure this into the big door there. Saturday morning, and I'm starting off today by using some of these cinder blocks to make stairs here. So there's gonna be one here and two there. I put T-posts in, which is going to go in the 2 high cinder blocks, and mixed a half bucket of mortar. So I'm going to kind of mortar them in initially with the mortar, and hopefully it's good enough weather for it. I had a little bit of calcium carbonate to speed up the process, and I'll get to it. So there's the finished product of that batch of mortar, and we'll let this cure for a bit, and then I'll make a form for this side, and then I'll end up pouring concrete in the holes and in the back. So that mortar just kind of locks it into place, and it's just step one. But that's it for those stairs today. I'm either going to do probably some stairs over there next, or maybe do some other stair type things. And now I'll show you what I did yesterday. So yesterday I got this tunnel door working. So this is the back exit, and just got to put a latch on it. And I'm thinking about putting a window in either on this side or on this side. I can't decide where to put the window, but I have like a 8-inch by 16-inch piece of polycarbonate left over, so that would make a decent window. And then I basically just cleaned up here, and then I put these are the shipping things for the round windows, and I just kind of foamed them onto the wall in places, which has a minimal insulation factor, and I figure it has an aspect of kind of reducing the echoiness maybe a little bit, and it's a place for them to go where they're just instantly recycled. And if they're ever in the way, they can easily enough come down, but they make it a little brighter, and they just generally add a small amount of value, and it's a good place for that waste material to go. So I've taken out like probably over 100 pounds of debris, and I'm still cleaning up in here. I've got an idea of how to finish all the wood. I think I'm going to do that like shishiban or whatever it's called, where you like burn it. I think I'm going to do that with a good bit of the wood. So I ordered some stuff for that. And then I'm just going to clean up a good bit up here. And then, and I also got electric up here yesterday. So there's electricity here. And then I'm going to run 12-volt wire as well, so that the lighting up here will be 12 volts. And I might install that today. So that is going around the outside of the tower. But I was thinking about maybe putting a conduit in the sidewall there and running the electric through there. So I might end up redoing that. But that's where we're at currently. Sunday morning, and this is one of the other projects I finished yesterday. So that was just the insulation panel kind of wedged in there and foamed in there, and then I used this recycled board and recycled other board, several boards, just to cover it and give it a more finished look. You can also see here how Molly's blowhole is leaking. All the water used to come in there, and so I tried to keep this thing off of the wall enough, but some of the drips are not running down the wall, which is why there's a little bit of water there. So I just got to seal Molly's blowhole a little better. But I'll end up doing the burning and tung oil finish on this and lots of the other wood. So today I'm going to clean up a bit, rewire this electric to, instead of come out there, and then kind of go out the outside, which isn't very ideal. I'm going to put in like a PVC piece right there to run the wire through there, and that'll be a better spot for that to go through. And I might even end up using that same thing for the hot water line that needs to come in here for the shower, but I'm not entirely sure. But I'm going to do that, and then I'll get the 12-volt power going up here and wire up some 12-volt lights and maybe a switch box. And then I've got a plan for the next supply trip so that I can get more plumbing completed. And I also need to get a drain in the shower thing. So anyways, that's all for today, for Sunday. So it is the evening of Monday the 6th, and we've got DC power up here. This is like a little circuit breaker thing for marine, so we'll give 5 different switches. So so far I've just got one hooked up, which the wire is going down there for a motion sensor light for the stairway, so that if it's on, did I just turn it on? Turn it on, then whenever I walk down here, and then this light turns on, which lights up the stairway. So when you come in the front door, this light will turn on, as well as this stairway here, automatically, so long as that switch is flipped on. So if you don't want the motion sensor on, then you can turn that off and watch the voltage. It's at 13.7 or 14.2, because the light just turned off. So there's a 0.5 voltage difference in the 12-volt line when that is running. So it's just got this, I think it's the 16 gauge, this long wire, so that's monitoring the voltage of the battery bank number 3, which is the biggest battery bank, which is really cool to have a little screen up here that automatically monitors that, so you can remotely monitor that. So the other thing that I did today is got a window in down here, so that makes the lighting situation a lot better down in this little tunnel. And I cleaned it up in here, so it's got the last piece of this acrylic or polycarbonate, whatever kind of that material that is for that window. And then over here, I got a latch on this and a door handle for the door to the roof access, the back hatch roof access. And so this is basically all finished down here. There's still, it's not like perfectly weather sealed, so probably just end up putting like a blanket over it or something, but it's secured, and it's good to have both a roof access, a secret back tunnel, and just kind of a back door, just in case you gotta go to the tunnel. So that's about it for today. I'm just gonna clean up here, and I figured out a drain for the shower, and I've got a rough idea for the plumbing. I'm going to run the plumbing line through that same PVC thing I hooked up there that I've got the electric coming through, and then that'll come up and I'll mount the shower head up here, and then I just got to either do a door, or maybe I'll probably just do like a curtain rod or something for a shower curtain to keep the water in this area, and I'll have to do a little bit of mortar work in here to make it all drain properly. There's a couple areas I've got to do mortar work in, just little pieces all over the place, but otherwise up here I'll have to run some more 12-volt lines for like LED lighting, probably like over here, and kind of like on that line there'll be LED lighting. But otherwise getting pretty close to finishing up here, and then cleaning up, and then moving on downstairs. I've got the Schwiegi Bon, or whatever it's called, the burning and the tongue oil. I've got that ordered and coming in the mail, so I'm going to do that. I've never done that before, but I'm going to do that on a lot of the wood, because I like the way that it kind of finishes. And yeah, and yep, that's it for now. I just got to do mostly like cleaning up here, and then I'll have the upstairs very close to being finished, and then move down there. Oh, I think I already showed you, but I did these like cinder blocks down here for like half steps, because these steps are so big, so you can kind of walk like that. And then these cinder block steps here and there, they're nice and cured now, so I can walk on them. But now I've got to build forms so that I can build out each step and then pour concrete in each one to make them bigger. But these ones I'll just cut the foam back, and these cinder blocks will just stay like this as just temporary like half stairs, just to make these steps a little bit smaller and make it a little easier. And then I've still got 2 big steps right here. This one and this one are pretty big, but they're also kind of narrow, so there's not really the room to put to put a cinder block in, but it's better to just have 2 big steps than 5 in a row as far as it being exhausting going up. And this area specifically is where that burning is going to make it look a lot nicer. But that's all for today. Wednesday morning, did a resupply yesterday, and it's snowed a bit, though it's melting pretty quickly. And I got some plumbing stuff to probably not do everything, but to connect the shower upstairs with the sink downstairs, more lumber to frame out the stuff downstairs, chicken food, paint, other stuff. So I'm resupplied to get back to it today, as well as some stuff for some other projects, but I won't get into that right now. So end of the day on Wednesday, and I got the plumbing coming down from the shower so that it doesn't get in the way of that window. And then I built this little bench here with 2 guys. Let's zoom out. And so the plumbing goes under the bench and it ends right here. And then I built this sink to mount this recycled sink that I've got. I just have to hook up the plumbing from the sink to the drain there, and then it's going to end up draining out that corner once I can connect the sink and the shower drain and put a trap in it. And then finally I got this little cabinet mounted so that the little, I've got an extra one, but I don't think it'll fit over here, but for this little kitchen corner, the dishes can go there. And then so I'm going to build, probably tomorrow, I'm going to build one more shelf right over here with some kind of wood. That's a little bit taller than this one, but this one makes a good bench, and you could potentially like put a little table in front of it and sit at a table or something. But it's really good at hiding the tires, hiding the plumbing, and also providing another useful surface to sit on or to use as like a little table. So I'm happy with all that, and that's it for today. And I'll close up these windows. All right, Thursday morning, second to last day of this spring special project video. And the goal today is to put some kind of trim on this LVL, or no, it's not LVL, but this floor joist thing, so it looks nicer, to complete the forms for the steps, and ideally to get some cement in there, because I think the temperature, I have to check the weather, but so that's number 2. And then number 3 is to bring up the stainless steel table, and I'm going to bring them up here and see where they fit. And then I'm going to build a little corner thing over there at the level of the bottom of that cabinet, which would be probably for like drying dishes or something like that. And then I ordered a epoxy kit to end up doing a custom epoxy countertop in here, but I might not even end up doing that. I don't really know, but I'm gonna have all the materials. I spent like $320 to do one. I was thinking I could maybe like make it custom around there, around that bend or something, but I don't know exactly. But those are the things on my agenda, so we'll see how it goes. Order of operations is often the trickiest thing, so I thought I was going to start with this little table thing here, but I had to foam that crack first because I wouldn't be able to get to it otherwise. And to do a whole can of foam, then I had to use the rest of the foam. So I used the rest of the foam to make these forms, basically, around the cinder blocks, just foaming in random stuff to kind of contain the concrete, which will go in there, and then the holes, and similarly down here for these cinder blocks, it's going to go in the holes, and then also back there, except I didn't get a wall right there, so I'll still have to figure that out without more spray foam. So that's how I finished my can of spray foam. And then I was gonna do the trim on here, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna get all this sawdust, I don't want to get the sawdust in there, and so I'm doing the mortar before the sawdust, so the sawdust ends up on top and not in it. And so this is the order of operations. That's what they teach you at West Point, your op board, except I don't have to make an op board, I just got to figure it out. I don't got to write it down. So now, op board, the operation order. So now the concrete is mixing. I already got, it's 2 buckets of sand, 3 buckets of stone, half from the Portland with some calcium nitrate, and it's mixed pretty good. Now I'm going to bring it over there and put it in the stairs. So there wasn't enough in the batch to fill that hole and that hole, but I got the cement mixer cleaned up, everything cleaned up, and got that one applied. Started up top, so that one's pretty good. And done with the first batch of cement, concrete, mortar, of at least 160, because there's 80 bags I have so far. I'll end up getting more at the end of the season, most likely. And there's 2 batches per bag, so I just used the half of a bag. And then this was concrete, not just mortar. And so 1 of 160 complete. And I'm gonna have some lunch, and then I can get on to that table and this trim here. So end of the day, Thursday, I got that little corner table in there next to the sink. It'll probably be where dishes like dry and stuff. And then up here, made a little shelf on top of that cabinet. And then I got this stainless steel table up here, which will probably be like the counter space. And probably have like a cook stove on it with the propane tank underneath. I just gotta put a little safety type things on the back side so the table is secure. And over here mounted this cabinet, and basically got an idea of this custom countertop I want to do. So I want it to go into that corner, and you can see there's a bend in the wall right here. Or can you see that? So right here it juts out. So I want it to basically go over this whole tire thing out and then come around the corner, and then come past this, and then all the way like to right here. So that's almost like a 10-foot long counter, and it'll be like narrow here, and then it'll get a little bit wider there, and then it'll make the maximum use of that space, customized into the space and around that plumbing, which is going to be quite a task, but I think it'll be really nice. So I ordered all the epoxy thing. There's a black, a white, and 2 red dyes, and silver and gold and other diamond dust sparkly things. And so yeah, that's kind of a lot of the kitchen coming together. I still have to do the plumbing. I kind of figured out a little bit about the plumbing, and the stairs are still curing. I had a couple issues of things accidentally falling in the curing cement. And I got some of this trim board on. I ran out of this called lumber, and so that's as far as I could get, but it makes a big big difference. It looks a lot nicer with that than without it. And I think I've got the materials for painting and for the tung oil for the burning in the ceiling down at the delivery point. So I'm going to go grab those, and that's it for today. So it's the last day of this preseason episode, spring special, and what I'm going to do, I bought this airless paint sprayer, which I'm going to use throughout the season, and I'm going to paint as much of the dome in here as possible white, as well as the wall in some places, though there's some areas I need to do more mortar, and so those areas I won't paint. And there's an area above there where there's some exposed stuff, and up there, so there are, well, and then there's the area right here where you can see a couple lines of remesh. I'm not sure if I'm going to paint that or not, but gonna get as much of this paint on as possible in the areas that I can do, so that the paint is done before I get to the Shugibon or whatever it's called, the burning in the ceiling. I don't want to do paint after that, so I'm gonna spend the first half of the morning prepping and protecting most of this stuff, and then if everything goes to plan, the next video here in the final project for this episode, or this isn't an episode of this video, there will be one more video before the first episode of the season, okay, which is, anyways, not that it really matters. So yeah, hopefully the next cut will be painted stuff. Okay, well, that was something. It's not like the most even job, that's for sure. But it's hard with the dome and different heights and everything. Like, it's a lot different than a flat wall to try to get things even. So you can see in some places the lines from like where it's thicker and where it's thinner. But that's just a first coat. But I did go through all 3 gallons, which I thought the 3 gallons were going to get 2 coats, but it went way faster than it would have gone by hand. That would have been probably like 10, 15 hours to do by hand. And again, when I do it by hand, it gets a lot thicker, and it's not. So I don't know. As far as That being roughly $90 of materials. Do I feel satisfied that there's $90 of value added? I think so. I mean, but it's not like, wow, like that was definitely $90 worth of value. It's kind of like, not like I got a great deal on that. It was like, yeah, that's exactly what I paid for. So, anyways, I'm satisfied. I'm certainly satisfied. It makes it so much brighter in here. It was noticeable as I was doing it, with all the windows and everything blocked. I almost fell once right here. With all the windows and everything blocked, it was rather dim in here. And then once I started adding the white, everything got really a lot brighter. Oh, I see some drips there, so I got to go through with a brush and get a few spots where there's drips and brush them out. But try not to fall here again. So you can't see where the step is. Here. And then when I still have to do a little more cleaning, but as I cleaned up like the 2 paint cans and stuff, I just dumped the wet, watery paint on the floor because I figured it's not going to hurt, and it's better than like dumping it outside or something. So it's probably going to only act as like a kind of a sealant. And so I got sort of some on the walls, all through here, even got like underneath there. And there's definitely some spots I didn't get. But I got at least some coverage in the shower. And down into the tunnel, which I was thinking I wasn't going to get in the tunnel, but I ended up going on in there. So it's a great first coat, I suppose. And I guess I'll need more for additional coats. I don't know if I'll do white or if I'll go straight for color. But that's it for today, that's for sure. I just gotta finish cleaning up. This is my new airless paint sprayer here. And I mostly got it, oh, my stuff falling down. I got stuff for lime wash too. I'm gonna do lime wash on the outside and spray the lime wash with that. And that was kind of the primary reason I got it. And then turns out this other paint needs an airless sprayer. I have a air powered sprayer too. But anyways, that is all for the projects for this week. I'll leave it there, and I'm just going to give you one chicken update for anyone who stayed this far in the episode. Thanks for hanging around, and checking with some chickens. Look how big Wasabi's gotten. A big boy, and he's a goofy guy. He's tough, but he doesn't really have natural skills with the ladies. Lance, on the other hand, who was born last year, he's doing a lot better, because Lance was raised by a chicken with his sister, and Wasabi maybe had brain damage and was rescued by me. Hey, kitty, I hear you. Oh, there's the kitty. Meow, meow. And then the goats are talking, they want food. So, Arthur over here, I saved his life twice in the last year. I mean, in the last week. So the first time, he had gotten stuck in an area. He's basically I've got too many roosters, and Arthur's at the bottom of the pecking order. And the roosters can be kind of savage, and they went and had him cornered in an area where he was upside down and stuck, and he was there for maybe like 24 hours before I found him and realized, hey girl. And so I saved him out of there, and then the next day, he was like out seizuring on the ground, like with his feet up in the air, because the roosters, probably Wasabi here, was just savaging him basically to submission. And ever since I separated him and put him in here, he's been doing a lot better. And he's got one leg that looks maybe broken, super swollen. He's gonna have his survival challenge this year because he never had one. He's the only one who never really had one, but he's just so sweet and kind and gentle. I wanted to keep him, but maybe he'll survive his wilderness challenge. And Wasabi's gonna have a wilderness challenge as well, but not at the same time. And I'm going to wait for Arthur's leg to recover before he has his survival challenge. And so Wasabi will end up going first. Probably in the next week or something, I'll put Wasabi out in the wild to start his survival challenge. And then I ordered 15 chicks, 3 of 5 different kinds. And they'll show up, I think, in the first week of May. And so I want to keep Arthur at least until then, so he has some time with the chicks to be kind of like a rooster daddy. But that's all for this week. I just finished cleaning up the painting, and I'm exhausted. And Gotta take care of all the animals and get some food and stuff, but I think that's all for today. So, thanks for tuning in, and I'll have another video probably in, I think 2 weeks will be the final preseason video before the season starts on the 3rd week. So, I'll probably be one more project video in 2 weeks. That's all for now, bye.